And we are live following AEW Dynasty. Why are we live? I start to question that theory at some point. Eventually, Wade, these AEW shows, maybe we just review them the next morning because it's basically the next morning by the time we're done this.
I think that'd be a terrible idea for this week because we are going to be doing a podcast tomorrow. So in the afternoon, 1 o'clock, really.
This is our first of 3 shows in less than 24 hours. Why we have done this to ourselves, I do not know, but the schedule has all of a sudden creeped up on both of us, and we are going to be back. By the time people are listening to this on their morning commute, we're going to be back before you're probably even done this show.
Before you get to your destination, we'll have already started our next podcast, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, I mean, I really envy those in Vancouver where it's like 9:30 p.m. right now, and what a wonderful place to be at for a Sunday night AEW pay-per-view.
I can only imagine what Braden Davey and Brewdog are up to at this very moment.
I mean, they're probably so hammered right now. They probably don't know where they are.
Hammered, or who knows what in
or
DC.
Maybe they're going out for tea.
Possibly. Mm-hmm.
Well, we are going to spare no time. We have got a Dynasty to review. And yes, WrestleMania week is kicking off, meaning that Way and I are going to be live daily this week, beginning Monday at 1 p.m. Eastern time, which is less than 13 hours from now.
We really should have started WrestleMania week on Tuesday this week.
I literally today was starting to think like, why didn't we just do this review tomorrow? That like maybe we could have condensed something together here, but you and I did not. For some reason, there was this gap between all of our other stuff and then Mania week beginning, and somehow it's all one bleeds into the other. And
it does, yeah.
I'm going to be absolutely miserable by Monday night, so do not listen to our Raw review. How's that for promotion? Okay.
As long as you can stay good for the next hour or so.
We'll be good. I mean, first of all, this was a fantastic show, and for the most part, I thought this crowd was incredible. As incredible as you can stay up for 5.5 hours of wrestling, but I would say for 80% of it, I thought this crowd was amazing. Pretty much.
Agreed. I'm kind of curious to hear from you where you feel like a turning point maybe, because I mean, I guess
I thought there was a dip by the women's championship match. I think a bit in the trios match. I mean, you did have Kyle O'Reilly coming back. I thought that pocket, and really that's about what it's limited to. But then they were right back for the main event. Like overall, like I give this crowd an A. I thought Vancouver was awesome tonight.
Agreed.
And the WrestleTix number was 8,700 at last check. They last ran this venue for a Collision back in May, doing just over 6,600 for that show. And we've got the 0 hour to start things off. And how are we going to start it off? With an angle, with Renee interviewing Willow Nightingale backstage. Willow's come all the way to Vancouver just to be interviewed. And here we are backstage at Rogers Arena. And Camille is back. I mean, all of our questions finally answered about Camille's whereabouts after that incredible run that ended in October of 2024. Since that time, she was in a movie, she was in American Gladiators, and now she is back to wrestle Willow Nightingale, who is now doing a gimmick as TBS champion that she welcomes back all the people that have been gone for a long time. And there's a lot of women that could keep her busy from now until the end of the year that have disappeared from AEW that can make comebacks. Camille being not one that would have probably been my highest of priorities to make sure we have a coveted spot for.
So, I mean, Mercedes Moné did have her last match in Winnipeg, which was the site of an AEW show the very next day. She did not make an appearance there. And at that point, I think I at least felt, okay, they must be saving it for the pay-per-view. We did not get that return, but we got something better.
Don't John, you dare complain, Way. You always deliver something bigger than what fans are expecting, and we have got Camille.
We got Camille.
I mean, all I'm going to say is that I guess this woman has been under contract this whole time, but this was not a remarkable run that she had. She was not at this level, and to me, this is a television match, and that is about it. There's too much depth, and I know everybody wants a spot for everyone, but there's also people that are really going to have to earn their spot, to get that audience interest. And Camille is certainly working from behind the eight ball.
So, what you pointed out, I think, is very interesting in that, yes, Willow has now defeated Hikaru Shida in her first match back. She defeated Queen Amanada in her first match back, and is very likely to defeat Camille in her first match back. This is all very...
Are we so sure?
I feel pretty confident, but this is all really unusual booking for, like, returns. And in the case of Hikaru
we
Shida...
beat them back, and they...
maybe... In the case of Hikaru Shida, like, she is teasing a heel turn. I'm not sure about Amanada yet. And, like, I just wonder if this is all leading to something, that might somehow involve all of these women that have lost to Camille.
The reunion nobody asked for between Mercedes Moné and Camille. Well,
of course, that's ultimately, I would think, what it all leads up to. At the same time, like, we've seen the success of Megan Bayne and Lita Cross. This is currently, I think, a product that has really embraced, like, these incredibly powerful, like, monster women in this division. And I would hope that in the case of Camille, maybe mistakes were certainly acknowledged and perhaps learned from her first run. So I am kind of curious to see if she does get a sustained run after this TBS title match, what they might have learned and what they may adjust about her afterwards.
More to come with Camille, who will be in action. Is this the first ever 0 hour where we just got an in action promoted match?
I'm not that up on my 0 hour history. Maybe you can give us a history of the 0 hour long form podcast at some point.
Well, we started with Marina Shafir and Alex Windsor out with the Strong Women's Championship, a good match that they had here. There was a chant of "Put your shoes on," directed at Shafir, who decided to play off of this chant by taking her foot and sticking it right into Alex Windsor's face.
Yeah. It got a big reaction. And this sort of ad-libbing from Shafir, I thought really showed her advancement throughout the years. Like, this was not necessarily the type of thing I would expect out of her, perhaps, like earlier in her run.
It's always great when you can play off the crowd and to turn your match into a fetish clip for the underbelly of the internet. Windsor is battling back. She's selling the arm, and the crowd is rallying behind them. Like, this was a hot crowd for this first match. And Windsor eats some kicks to the chest and then hits her pump handle half Nelson driver, essentially a made in Japan, and wins in 8 minutes and 55 seconds. Maybe some semi-surprising outcome as she beat Shafir clean.
A little bit, yeah. Certainly it was surprising for me because, like, Shafir hasn't exactly been coming off of, like, a series of, like, successful wins. I'm sure she's won some, but in prominent positions, she's lost a lot more, I feel, recently than has won. But at the same time, I could see them, like, doing this because they might want to put Alex Windsor next in line for Thekla after Jamie Hayter. So I thought Shafir actually looked great here. To me, like, she continues to be honing in on her judo-based style. I think Windsor shows great fire. She's charismatic, and is overall just a great addition to this roster, both as a singles and as a tag wrestler. So, yeah.
Hey, Rhonda, you how's the training going? You want to? These are the cities that we're doing. No pressure. If you can show up, I'd be so grateful to have that rub. That would be wonderful.
She's kind of busy, yeah. But I thought the match carried on, like, the intensity of the Chaos in Canada match. Like, it was almost like they were kind of playing their own version of it. Yeah.
Willow Nightingale comes out. She's got her shoulder taped up, and Camille attacks as she enters the ring, laying out. Sorry. I'm getting ahead of myself here. First, we have the match here with Camille and Big Ann, who is a wrestler in the Pacific Northwest. And they mentioned that Camille has been off filming American Gladiators during her time away. And Nigel McGuinness reminds us that someone attacked Camille backstage, and we never found out who it was. So I eagerly anticipate this whodunit that we've got. Multiple whodunits now in the women's division for AEW. Who did it? Very quick match. Torture Rack, Blue Thunder Bomb. Camille wins in 1:25. This is when Willow comes out and goes after Camille and gets laid out for a second time by Camille. So match coming soon, but was not officially announced for TV this week.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, she looks like a star. She's got big presence. In ring, I would still say, even from this short match, she looks, still a little bit awkward. But we'll get a tour view of where she's at on Wednesday, of course.
Jack Perry, Mark Davis for the AEW National Championship. So this was interesting because on TV on Wednesday, Jack Perry took the pin in the trios match, but not from Mark Davis, instead from Andrade. But this allowed Davis, I guess, as by osmosis, gained a title match out of that win. So Perry hits a springboard moonsault to the floor. Davis hits like this falcon arrow onto the edge with this nasty landing to Perry. And Perry recovers, hits a DDT counter, hits his own pile driver, and the crowd gets on the referee for this very clear 2 count, and they just shout down this ref. Davis comes off the ropes and gets caught by a Rana, and Perry just hooks the leg. 8.5 minutes as Perry retains and clearing the way for his road to spring break on Friday.
Really, really fun, quick pace, like David Goliath match. Perry is great. Though if I'm honest, like he feels still at this point as a babyface rather generic to me. Like save for the music, I personally don't think there's all that much interesting about this incarnation of his character. Mark Davis, on the other hand, continues to be so much fun to watch. You know, he's a big guy who hits hard, has great moves, can work the pace of a junior heavyweight. And especially against small guys, he's just so fun to watch.
This guy should have won the TNT title tonight.
I would not be mad at that in the least. You know, he's in the role now where he's losing a lot, but with every match, I feel like he's gaining more and more support from the fans. So I feel like it's only a matter of time before he gets a proper push, and provided he could stay healthy, of course.
You know where he finds himself? He's right at that level. Maybe slightly above what you would expect AEW to give up, but of like a G1 candidate. I could see Mark Davis.
C2. What about C2?
Well, yeah, but the G1 is sooner. So I'm just looking at.
I would almost hate to lose him for a month.
Honestly, like Mark Davis is kind of right at that level of the people you don't seem to think that AEW would want to part with for 5 or 6 weeks.
Yeah,
but
you can give up Lance Archer for 2 months, and I don't think Tony would mind. But Mark Davis, you know, he's kind of valuable.
He might. I mean, he might be the busiest guy over the last 2 months. Yeah. Megan Bayne and Lena Cross finish off the show, the 0 Hour, defending against Maya World and Hyan for the women's tag titles. They got the heat on Hyan for a long time, gave a lot to the challengers. The purpose of this match, they gave them a 60-second video package on Collision to set this one up. There was lots of double team maneuvers here by Bayne and Cross. They do the Samoan drop fall-away slam combo with Bayne, and then go for their double choke slam high times, which is avoided on the first go-around. Bayne then hits Hyan with a drive-by, Cross with a TKO, Maya's in for the save, and then they win with the double choke slam in 10 minutes and 35 seconds. So they did give them some time here.
Good match, I felt. You know, great performance from both teams. Maya World especially, I thought looked very impressive in her match. But man, the Divine Dominion are just they're a money team. You know, I feel like it's rare to have a women's tag team that looks like they can beat everybody, and then they're able to like have a wrestling style that seems to be able to back that up in the ring. They wrestle as dominantly as they look. So it's impressive how complete of a package they are as a team, like really right out of the gate here.
Do you think that Maya World could use a manager?
Who?
Jeff Jarrett.
Oh.
Yeah. That concluded 0 Hour. I wouldn't say anything that was a blow-away great, but overall, I thought the crowd, they were here to watch some wrestling. They were excited for these matches, and you know, I like Perry and Mark Davis. I would say that would probably be the best of the bunch here. Shavir and Windsor was actually a very good match as well. So nothing offensive, nothing blow-away great, but fine 0 Hour to get you set. Whet your appetite for the next 4.5 hours of your life. So we move on to the pay-per-view, the Young Bucks taking on Kazuchika Okada and Konosuke Takeshita. And Takeshita declines a handshake from Okada at the beginning. And then we just got into an unbelievably stellar tag match for the next 20 some odd minutes between these four. There is a point where Nick gets draped on the top rope, and Okada sends Matt over and lands on top of his brother, like face going right near his ass. And as Matt rolls to the floor, Okada jumps off the apron and tells Matt, quote, "How's your brother's dick, huh?" And he said it like it was the greatest achievement of this man's career. How's your brother's dick, huh? So Callis is out on commentary, goes after Matt's eye, just tries to like fish hook the eye here and take it out here like he's Haku in a bar. A lot of heat for that. There's a double sharpshooter spot, obviously, in Canada. That's going to get a big pop here. Takeshita refuses to allow Okada to tap. They slap one another as they reach the ropes, and the crowd continues just to be into everything here. We saw Takeshita go for a German mat off the top, rotating him onto the chest. And then we got some miscommunication here where Okada was running into Takeshita and vice versa. And then they fall apart at the seams and they just start going at it and they're throwing punches at one another. And this is just after bumping into one another. So Callis is just saying, let them get this out of their system. And Matt shoves Okada into Takeshita. There's a knee that takes out Okada by mistake. And then Okada prevents Takeshita from hitting the Raging Fire. The Rainmaker misses, taking out Takeshita. And they hit a BTE trigger on Okada for 2. And then set up for the Meltzer driver. Takeshita grabs Nick's leg from the floor. But then he lets go and lets him hit the Meltzer driver. So they hit it to Okada, and Matt pins Okada. 19 minutes and 55 seconds of what I thought was a phenomenal opener. I thought this tag match was just outstanding.
Yeah, as I think we all expected. I mean, like you're talking about two of the greatest singles wrestlers and arguably the best tag team.
And after like 3 minutes, I was like, this is going to be just utterly incredible. And they just kept it all up. I would say by the end of this, I think this was my number 2 match on the show.
Okay, interesting. I haven't even internally done those rankings, but like for me, this receives full marks. And
what was your number 8 match?
My world, and I don't know. I'm trying to even remember it all at this point. But like to me, what stands out, we know the quality of action is going to be a given. It's going to be tremendous. But what stands out to me is the storytelling here. And as far as like, can they get along matches go, that old cliche, this to me was about as great of a can they get along match as I think you will ever see. To me, it worked, especially because you could see the progression of logic leading to Takeshita like fully turning on Okada here. Takeshita and Okada, of course, they hate each other, but they're willing to put their differences aside at the start of the match to get the job done. They're doing great. They're actually showing good chemistry. But then you have that little small amount of miscommunication, which was just that little bump. And that was enough for Okada to completely break and snap and just attack Takeshita, really for no reason here. So and then they of course had some really greatly timed friendly fire moments here that I felt did a good job of maintaining the idea that Okada was simply using friendly fire as an excuse to further attack Takeshita, whereas Takeshita, you could tell, genuinely felt bad about attacking Okada because he wanted to win the match for Don Callis. So all throughout the match, like, you're just begging for Takeshita to finally snap and break his loyalty to Callis so that he could attack Okada. And they saved it for like the perfect moment at the end with him holding the Meltzer driver only to let it go as if he was pulling a trigger, named Matt Jackson. So great pro wrestling, of course, but I thought the storytelling to me took it to a higher level.
Well, here at Post Wrestling, we always want to get along with our partners and never leave them hanging at the end, because the last thing you ever want is friendly fire when you are looking for the top VPN service in the world.
Support for this podcast comes from NordVPN. As wrestling companies rake in record profits, it seems many fans are growing frustrated with rising ticket prices and the need to juggle multiple streaming services just to follow weekly shows and premium live events. Luckily for Canadians, I'm based in a spot where one streaming service covers almost everything under one fee. But what if I'm off traveling in the US for a few weeks? So here's what I do. I launched NordVPN right on my phone, laptop, or Apple TV, changed my settings to point back to Canada, sign into my service, and I'm streaming everything like I do back home. It literally takes seconds. No cables or complicated setup required. On top of that, Nord encrypts your whole connection so your IP and location info stays hidden, especially if you're skeptical about a sketchy Wi-Fi network at your hotel or vacation rental. So head over to nordvpn.com/postwrestling to get our exclusive 2-year plan deal with a massive discount and 4 bonus months thrown in. No risk thanks to their 30-day money-back guarantee. That's nordvpn.com/postwrestling. Stay safe, save money, and enjoy all the benefits of a secure internet with Nord.
Very well done, John. I hit the wrong button there, speaking of pulling triggers. So excellent. Well done, as always. And, wouldn't you happen to know it, I had a friend show up from the UK who allowed us to access his My AEW AEW.com account in order to watch tonight's show. That's exactly how I watched tonight's pay-per-view.
Oh, that's wonderful. What was their name? Henry, right?
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Yeah, right. Henry
William, one of those British names.
Of course.
Yeah,
Gotcha. It's a great time to be an AEW consumer with nordvpn.com/postwrestling to get you through. Ricochet and Chris Jericho / Jericho next up. So of the 3 appearances, this was definitely the loudest for Jericho. This crowd went nuts for this guy. As soon as Judas plays, huge reaction. This was the reaction I think he wanted in Winnipeg a week and a half ago. So they're just continuing to sing, and Jericho's playing it all up. Jericho's like, he's grabbing like the ringside camera, starts shooting Ricochet. They're doing all the bald comedy. And then finally, Ricochet just hits this guy with a DVD on the edge, and Jericho sells his arm for the rest of this match. And then he's selling and selling, and he'd hit something. And in this case, hits a lion salt. And this place, you would have thought this guy just did a 630. That's how they reacted to this lion salt. He's constantly going for the walls. Toa and Khan would get involved, breaking stuff up. And we see a Frankensteiner off the top buckle by Jericho. Then Ricochet comes back with a Benadryller and a Vertigo. Jericho kicks out. So Ricochet goes for a shooting star press, and it lands in a code breaker with Jericho only getting the 2 count. Great spot there. We have another walls with, again, Khan distracting so Toa can pull Ricochet to the rope, and Jericho goes after them, hits a high cross to all 3, Judas effect to Khan, and then Toa runs over Jericho, and Ricochet hits another shooting star press for a 2 count. The crowd is chanting Y2J, and he hits the spirit gun, but Toa calls for more. And so Ricochet hits a lion salt, pinning Chris Jericho in 14 minutes and 10 seconds. I thought this was great. I thought this was like a really great performance from both of these guys. Just given the match that they had laid out, you could see why Jericho wanted Ricochet here to, like, that shooting star into the code breaker. Like, they hit that great. Like, this was like, I know Jericho's a very polarizing figure to some on screen, but this dude at 55, to do a pay-per-view match on an AEW show in 2026, that's a really high bar. And I thought they reached it here. And going back to our preview, I did see like the psychology here of like Jericho losing and it making sense. And I really like the added touch of the lion salt here with Ricochet winning.
So what is the psychology to you?
I think it's double. Like, to your point of this ultimately being like a Jericho turn, I think none of this is all that consequential, like him losing right when he comes back. But I think losing here, I think it does kind of like if Jericho had won, I think people's reaction to this would have been a lot more negative than instead of just praising the match. And here's the guy, he lost to his own move. And I think it's all going to pay off for him with a turn down the road. And he's generally going to be bulletproof in this kind of role that he is in. We will see. Bulletproof might be too strong of a term, but I think actually coming back and losing, I think that's going to quell a lot of the anti-Jericho sentiment that might have been exacerbated if he had just beaten Ricochet on his first match back.
So okay, in kayfabe, like, what is Chris Jericho thinking at this moment? Is he genuinely a babyface? You know, is he genuinely, or is he trying to like deceive us in some way? How are you feeling?
I think it's generally an insincere babyface, but
so he failed in his mission though, didn't? And okay, let me just talk about like sort of what I find so fascinating about all this, because like everything leading up to the match, you know, reeks of Jericho certainly being insincere in the way that he's sort of milking the crowd for these reactions, bringing like sort of like old shtick back, like the list, even like taking the camera and shooting it at his opponent. To me, it all feels like he's almost like doing the exact thing he said he would never do in his career, which is like play the old hits, right? Be a nostalgia act. So I feel like prior to the match, he's doing all of this in a way to get us to temporarily like him just so that he could turn on us later, right? Which I felt would unfold further in this match. Like, you know, he would anyway. But like this match just ended up being like an outstanding Chris Jericho babyface match with like no cheating whatsoever. He's fighting off a 3-on-1 advantage like the entire time. And on top of it all, he actually loses. So the loss to me like totally throws me off the scent, because if this is some sort of like like mischievous Chris Jericho, I would think that something would occur to allow him to win, right? So that like whatever grand plan this all is, at least like would result in some level of success, off the bat. But he lost here without any sort of cheating. So I am still like, I'm kind of perplexed about exactly what direction it's headed towards.
Well, number one, it's Canada. This was going to be very tough crowds if you were going to go that way. Number two is that if this continues and the crowds continue to react like this beyond this Canadian run, then like you pivot,
Let's
run
just
with
keep him
it.
babyface. Yeah.
Like there's no law that says just because, and we're just like spitballing this idea. Like if this works as a babyface character, great. It's like you go with what the audience directs you to, and maybe in Seattle this week, and you continue. Like maybe it's just going to be Jericho's been gone for a long time. The song is back, and that's a big part of the Jericho act.
Certainly,
you can run
a
with
quality of match like this, I feel, will have turned a lot of people's opinions on Chris Jericho. Tonight, he got a Legends reaction, and the performance was one that made you genuinely, to me, feel like you appreciate him and for what he's still able to do at this high level so many years into his career. Again, like nothing about the match itself felt all that insincere to me, which is different from maybe like the everything he's doing before the actual action. So I feel like him having great matches might actually be enough for like, audiences to just love Chris Jericho again if he has quality of matches of like this.
And this also started the run where all the key Canadians lost on this show.
Kyle O'Reilly aside.
Oh, right. You're right. Kyle O'Reilly aside. A good point. So, yes, 1-4. Andrade and El Ídolo and Darby Allin in the number one contenders match. So they're chanting for Darby at the beginning. Andrade does a tranquilo pose on the ropes, and Darby just flies at him, sending them to the floor. And Andrade goes and takes a selfie with indie wrestler Kingsley. And then he turns around, and Darby hits a coffin drop to the floor onto Andrade. They continue in the ring. Darby did this insane crucifix bomb counter off the top and then transitioned to a crossface with Andrade making it to the rope. Darby did a crazy tope landing into the barricade and a missile to the floor, sending Andrade off of the chair that he's seated in. Andrade comes back, double moonsault after removing the pants, which got a big reaction. Darby hits the coffin drop, but Andrade holds up Edwards' arm so she can't count three. This would seem to be a violation of some kind of rules.
There's precedent set for it, John, and therefore
listen, I just watched
acceptable.
a TNA pay-per-view on Saturday. This wouldn't even qualify as like any kind of discretion. Okay, so I'm hardly the one to point that out. Okay, they should have had Frank Gastineau here. And so Edwards just continues like, oh, I can't count three. So he hits the spinning elbow, which may or may not be referred to as the Judas effect in the future, and then goes for the DM, and it's turned into the Last Supper, and he just catches him. I love when Darby does this Last Supper. It always catches guys. It comes out of nowhere, and it always works.
And it's credible.
Yes, absolutely. 16 and a half minutes, and afterwards Andrade shakes his hand and gives him respect. The only swerve here at the end was later in the show asking Darby about this title shot and people speculating it would be Double or Nothing. They didn't flat out announce it for Wednesday, but Darby said it's this Wednesday, basically.
It's Wednesday at this point. Like Darby wanted to challenge MJF on Wednesday. So barring like maybe a last minute change, maybe MJF saying, no, I'm not fighting, twice in a week. It's happening Wednesday. It's in Seattle, like, in Washington. So, MJF essentially, Andrade teasing a babyface turn here. One might even say that this was a babyface turn, but he still has the Callous Association, so we'll see where that goes. But it feels like, he and MJF are probably still tied together, just given his, protest of like working for MJF through Don Callis. But I thought this was another fantastic match, to start off this card. One that, of course, you could kind of predict the outcome of this one. Darby was the one getting the title shot, Andrade maybe further away from it. But I found myself very lost in it, just to a point where I forgot about maybe how predictable the outcome was. And almost because I didn't care who won, because I was enjoying the action so much. To me, this Andrade run has just been a world of difference from his first AEW run. I think he's performing at a very high level in ring, better than prior. And I think he's also introduced some good charismatic moments to his repertoire. Like, I mean, the selfie spot I love it every single time. It again might be kind of cliche, but I think it's great. And taking the pants off is, I think it really works for him. So in ring, he's also incredibly spectacular, and of course that's going to be the case with somebody like Darby Allin, who makes all of his opponents look that much better than they already are. Despite this being like a standard rules match, I felt it was just as spectacular as like anything sort of like no DQ, just because Darby Allin puts so much into everything he does.
Yeah, we were 3 for 3 at the start of this pay-per-view. A really hot start for the first hour plus. And continues with FTR against Adam Copeland, as he was identified.
Yeah, he might have dropped, like, Cope might just be fine in like Cage and Cope, but Adam Copeland maybe feels more realistic.
Cajun Cope. It sounds like a I don't know, New Orleans based tag team. But yes, his graphic read Adam Copeland.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe everyone should just go by last names. Maybe that should be the new thing in AEW. Follow the Jericho template, and we'll just refer to people as their last names.
I feel like there's some level of pushback from, like, I'm presuming Tony Khan in not wanting to have guys just be one last name, right? Like, Jericho, I'm sure, wants to be just Jericho, perhaps, but
why?
Tony's just like, no, he's Chris Jericho. Cope wants to be, he's not Cope, he's Adam Copeland. I mean, I don't know, like, anyway. Guys want to like sound cool. They want to sound like they're like a rock band or something.
Cope.
And Adam Copeland isn't the coolest sounding name, unfortunately.
Hey, Tin.
Yeah,
it's harder with your name. So the crowd is singing "Oh Canada" at the beginning of this. That's a new one. I don't know if this one's going to we'll get copycat chants of this in Seattle or other places.
Unlikely.
It'd be cool if they did. I mean, that would be a very progressive.
I don't think we got it at any of the Toronto shows.
No, we're not that patriotic here.
Yeah, they're just way more patriotic in Vancouver.
We're kind of, everyone hates Toronto. So they had the advantage on Copeland early, and then Cage just runs crazy. The crowd are singing "Fuck the Revival," and we get double crossfaces by Cage and Copeland, and Cash drops Cage on top of Copeland, breaking that out, and we get a tug of war spot with the tag belt, with Cage grabbing the belt but inadvertently nailing Copeland right in the head, and just starts bleeding buckets here. And this dude, he's just covered in blood. They manage a 3D on Dax, and Stoke yanks Cage off of the apron. So Copeland chases after Stoke right into a shatter machine, and Cage then tosses Stokely into the ring, breaking up the cover. And Dax gets upset at Stoke, and Paul Turner shoves Stoke out of the ring. So there's a pile driver to Copeland. Cash gets a chair, but then Cage takes it away. Stoke interferes, and Cage, who has been selling this bad arm, is sent into the post and then into the timekeeper's area, and basically is removed from the match as Copeland is left to fight alone. He takes a super kick party from FTR. They go for an FTR trigger, which misses, and Copeland gets a double spear, and this place goes nuts for the idea that Copeland is going to win it on his own. He goes for one final spear. Cash just leaps, sunset flip, rotates Copeland into the air for a shatter machine, and they pin Copeland clean. 21 minutes and 10 seconds. And Cash leans over Copeland and makes the sign of the cross. And then they get into the fans' faces here. They were just waiting for someone to come at them here. And Cash looks into the camera and apologizes to Copeland's family. I loved just this simplistic finish. It was just a really nice setup. And yeah, FTR retain the tag titles. And I like your theory about this. Ultimately, perhaps it's a big stipulation match with the Bucks that they do down the road. But I thought this continued the streak of this pay-per-view. This was a really entertaining tag match, and I like the ending quite a bit.
Agreed. yes, it was a clean finish, but I mean, it did, it was pretty much like precipitated by, a belt shot to Edge, Cope, that maybe one might argue was inadvertent, but I feel like that might be a path to, a rematch for these guys to claim that, that wasn't exactly clean. Plus you had, I have to kind of retrace my memory, but maybe there was something else that they could complain about too. But I thought it was very, very strong, and to my memory, better than the All Out match in Toronto. It certainly felt like it had bigger reactions, here, and to me, it had stronger babyface moments for Edge, who, obviously like the blood really helps, but you also have the addition of the whole Beth attack angle that's kind of deep in this feud a little bit more, and I also think like, having Copeland now actually starting to look a little bit older, looks great, amazing, like moves amazing, but like he is starting to certainly show some age, and him taking on FTR 2-on-1 to me like really resulted in some of the best Adam Copeland babyface wrestling I think I've seen on the second run of his coming back from retirement.
He's slowly turning into Liam Neeson.
Yeah. Yes, that's that would be a great second chapter for him. So, like FTR doing the Bucks move obviously suggests those two teams being tied together. But
it made you immediately keep the Bucks linked to the story by doing those spots, and the Bucks kind of having to start. Well, the story was they had to start from the bottom, and then they just beat Okada and Takeshita, which is hardly the bottom of the tag division, but
they're
yeah,
pretty much in line.
I would say that's a pretty good win to get them back into things.
Yeah, but I do wonder how they continue to tie CNC into the mix, if they do.
So Willow reacts to the attack by Camille, and she's going to kill Camille's comeback, and basically insinuates meeting her at Spring Breakthrough on Wednesday. So they didn't do any of like the big.
They've announced it.
Have they announced it? Okay,
yeah,
so
yeah.
we are getting that on
Right,
Wednesday.
this graphic here. Yeah, there you go.
All right, for the TBS Championship.
Mm-hmm.
Casino Gauntlet.
And you know what? Camille could win. You're right. Like maybe the first two were to throw us off our scent, and she loses
Camille wins the title, and then she demands, "Who took me out in the parking lot?" And Mercedes Moné. We get the feud we never asked for, but has to be paid off.
I don't think that's a wild suggestion. Like, if
Nigel isn't bringing that up if they're not going to pay that storyline off.
If Tony doesn't want like Mercedes to beat Willow, for instance, then you'd have to have Camille beat Willow.
Oh, that would
not any better, but
yeah,
I don't know.
Not ideal. It's not ideal. But if Nigel hadn't brought that up, like, would anyone have remembered this angle with Camille being taken out? Like, I think this could be one of those mystery angles that not even like your diehard fan on the internet would maybe dig up. But we could be wrong.
Well, Tony Khan is a lot more than a diehard
he's
wrestling fan.
He
remembers everything.
Yes.
Yeah.
So next is we swap out Nigel for Bryan Danielson, who does the second half of the pay-per-view, and we're doing the Casino Gauntlet for the vacant TNT title. Tommaso Ciampa and Roosh starting things off, and they really get on Roosh, who's just like playing around, wasting time, and the announcers call him on it for this being a mistake. Bandito is third and comes out. Good reaction for him. Teases a 21 plex. Then followed by Speedball Mike Bailey, El Clone, and then Pac, who is the first of the Death Riders to enter. Pac does a black arrow to the floor onto a bunch of the guys. Speedball, Bandito, and Pac are just going at it in the ring. If ever there was like a example of like an excess of talent depth, this was it. Just a throwaway, like no non-advertised entrance in a match, and we get Speedball Mike Bailey, Bandito, and Pac. Just because. Daniel Garcia is in seventh. He teased doing his dance, but wouldn't for this crowd. Anthony Bowens follows. Then Kevin Knight is out ninth, allowing Jet Speed to work together against the Death Riders. And Bailey and Knight even tease going at it, but Garcia intervenes. And then Bandito goes for the 21 plex on Ciampa. The save is made by Jet Speed. Crowd is into that. And 10th is Wheeler Yuta. So Bandito hits a dive to most of them on the floor. Ciampa superplexes Knight off the top to the floor, and Pac avoids getting hit by this superplex. So he takes Speedball, hits the black arrow, Ciampa breaks it up, and then this ending. Garcia puts Speedball in the Dragon Tamer, and he wrenches back so far that Knight leaps off the top, landing a UFO splash on Garcia to not only break the submission, but pins Daniel Garcia in 21 minutes and 5 seconds as Kevin Knight wins the TNT title.
I really like the booking. I really like the decision. I think Jet Speed have gained so much momentum. Any sort of spot they've been put into, both guys have just excelled at. And I mean, of course, they were destined for, the tag titles, and that would have been fine for them. But I think their ceiling has shown to be way higher than just as a tag team. And they've shown capability as great single stars in the C2 and in high profile matches. And especially in the case of Knight, somebody who is young and can talk and can wrestle. I feel like this sort of title being put onto him shows that Tony sees him as somebody who could be in this company and be a top star in this company in the years to come. And at his age, I think he's 29, 30 or 29. Like you should be starting already, So this seems like he's getting the fast track towards singles run. And in the process, I mean, it seems like they're going to try to drag Bailey along in opposition to him by telling a bit of a jealousy story at the end of this year that was kind of teased, so that Bailey might also be brought up to a similar level. So very happy to see this finally kind of move for Jet Speed.
Yeah, and they even teased that of how this might disrupt Jet Speed with Kevin Knight winning this big championship. So I like that line being inserted in there. This is just like a cavalcade of great talent that you have, but the booking was well done. I think this was really well received. Kevin Knight becoming the champion and sort of getting that elevation coming out of this match as well, and no shortage of people that he will get to work with. So then we have Thekla against Jamie Hayter for the women's championship, and we go backstage first to the Brawling Birds at their custom bar, just getting hammered before this match.
Their whole gimmick is that they're British and they love to drink and fight.
Yes. Yeah. Stereotypes that we love to preserve.
Mm-hmm.
So out comes both women, and Thekla goes for the spear right away, and they fight up the ramp. Danielson is very worried about the count. It's like, oh, Brian, don't worry. Okay. There will be no count out. And there's a DDT by Thekla on the ramp and starts working on Hayter's neck. Hayter would fight back with a Liger bomb, and Thekla tries to get a cover hooking the trunks, but is unsuccessful and goes for the spider walk, and Hayter just lifts her up for a tombstone. Thekla bites her on the turnbuckle, spider suplex into a double stomp, and then Thekla ducks a Haterade, rakes the eyes, and does an O'Connor roll right near the corner so that she can grab the bottom rope just at the last second and pins Jamie Hayter. This one went 17 minutes, and Alex Windsor comes down complaining to the referee, and Jamie Hayter giving the statement to Thekla, "You fucker, you're fucking dead." This is what we needed on Dynamite this week to set this match up. Because I did think this was one where it was a pretty lengthy match, and this was one where I feel like the crowd did have a chance to kind of exhale after just a tour de force of matches that preceded this. But I didn't really have that many complaints about the match. I think it was a relatively cold match going in, and I think that it was just, it kind of just fell into your match that was not going to, I think, elicit the same kind of response as what preceded it and what would come after. Yeah.
Now, to me, at no point did I feel like the crowd was like dead at all. I mean, if the preceding matches were, I would say from 8.5 to 10s. This was, to me, at worst, maybe 7, 6.5. So to me, I still felt like the sound was sustained enough. But I mean, there was no build practically to this. You're talking about somebody who is in a tag team right now who's really kind of set on the tag team. The build has been with Mina Shirakawa. So this match was really just kind of put on here, I think, to add to Tekla's record, and also because you're going to get a banger in ring between these two. And I felt of what I've seen from them, I think I like this match more than their previous ones. They both have a fluidity and tolerance to pain that I think really shows off their Japanese experience, and that's why I think they match up so well. But You also have Thekla, who's now way more over. And I think you have a Jamie Hayter who, like, at least has a character right now, has some sort of identity. And to me, came across a bit more confident in her, like, wrestling style and her wrestling character in this match. So I enjoyed it. I thought it over-delivered given its lack of build. And I think Windsor might be next.
I think you probably get something with Windsor. I mean, that was a notable win that she got on the 0 hour. So that could be a TV match very easily. Moxley and Ospreay for the Continental Championship. And the bell rings and immediately Ospreay hits the hidden blade and Ospreay just stands there and he's looking at the crowd. They're stunned. Moxley's stunned. And Ospreay just signals that he's got 20 minutes and he's not going to rush. So he hits another hidden blade. This time Moxley goes to the floor and he's bleeding from the mouth as he would for the duration of the match. Finally, Moxley gets out of the way from a kick to the steps and hits the first paradigm shift on the floor, and he starts attacking the neck. This includes a sleeper suplex and lays out Ospreay with a forearm off the springboard as Ospreay face plants down. We get to the midway part where Moxley's got a bulldog choke in, moves to a rear naked choke, and tries for a sleeper suplex off the top, but Ospreay lands on his feet, and Moxley hits another sleeper suplex, Ospreay rotates into a Liger bomb, but he's still favoring the neck. His selling was amazing here. Like, he's truly selling that he's got, like, numbness in his hands and the strength was being compromised for all of his key moves. He goes for a Styles Clash, but only gets a 2 count. And then he puts Moxley into a bulldog and hits another hidden blade. And we're down to 5 minutes left. And this crowd just booed this time check that they were down to 5 minutes left because this was going very quickly. Excalibur thinks that Ospreay has a stinger. Danielson can't assess it on the spot. He's like, it's hard to tell. And he's just gutting his way through it. Can't lift up Moxley for a Tiger Driver. So then he takes him onto the steps. But Moxley rakes him in the eyes, hits a tombstone on the steps, and now Doc Samson is concerned. He's like, man, I've got one guy that could explode at any minute, and now Ospreay's neck. So in comes Doc Samson, and Ospreay beats the count at 9, but instantly is hit with a stomp, followed by more paradigm shifts, and then one final Death Rider just cracking this guy on his head. And Moxley wins in 18 minutes, retaining the championship. And this last shot is Ospreay, who's like, his neck is all messed up and he's just reaching with his limp arm for Moxley and the belt, and Moxley keeps the belt. I love this match.
Great match. One that certainly took advantage of the story. It felt very emotionally charged and intense right off the bat. And of course, you have elevated stakes due to a 6-month layoff, for Will Ospreay. And I think they did a great job of Ospreay did a great job of just delivering very intense promos in the build up to this. And that resulted in, the vibe, throughout the course of this match. I thought the action was incredible. Ospreay, I think, I feel he looks as good as ever, man. And if you weren't already convinced of that from maybe seeing previous weeks' performances, in this match, he certainly didn't look diminished to me in any sort of way. I think the only change is that maybe he's become, to me, just a more complete pro wrestler because he's using every tool he has besides the in-ring, including his promos, including his selling on great display here, and including his, overall intensity, I would say. The crowd was up for this entire 20 minutes, basically. How long was this? What was the total time?
It was about 18. I think they had about 2 left.
Okay. So, I feel like maybe for a lot of people, maybe myself included, the expectation would have been to go the distance. And they didn't need to. It resulted in something that was a more significant ending. It seems like it is a setup for a bigger match, because this really felt like it was there to bottom Ospreay out. This felt like his WrestleMania 39, or him, Okada leaving Wrestle Kingdom 9 crying in tears.
Was this finish negotiated on Langus?
We'll have to await, the records. But we are expecting, of course, Ospreay to probably be challenging for the championship at All In. And the timeline, I think, works out in that he could be at the very bottom here, enter the Owen by Double or Nothing, and fight his way back up.
Yeah, it'll be interesting where they start the Owen this year because you don't have you have a longer lead time before All In if it's at the end of the summer as opposed to the beginning of the summer. But I think you're right. I think we're going to get the United Empire and Death Riders, and I think we're going to get another match between these two. And realistically, this should be Ospreay. Like, there would be a great story if like it came down to these two in the Owen, for instance, or just something like Moxley is the last hurdle before Ospreay can go for his championship and tell this story that this guy was just hell-bent on revenge in this match, and he fell into a trap in this match. He fought Moxley on his terms instead of Ospreay's terms, and it cost him.
You think Mox stays as more of a heel going forward from now until Wembley, or do you think he still kind of reverts back and forth? Like,
I think the Death Riders are going to be linked with the United Empire, and I see them more kind of staying, in that kind of vein for the immediate future.
Me too.
This is when Renee interviewed Darby Allin. So, have they put a graphic out for that for Wednesday for Darby and MJF?
Somebody in the chat says Tony just announced it. I'm assuming on the press conference. So that I mean, I feel it's all but confirmed.
There you go.
Yeah.
The Dogs against Orange Cassidy, Roderick Strong, and the returning Kyle O'Reilly. I mean, the Conglomeration, they always get the spot on the pay-per-views. They just, Tony has a lot of confidence in these trios matches in the toughest spot on the pay-per-view.
Yeah, it's them or the Pinnacle Paradigm. What were they? Adam Cole's thing, the United.
The Pinnacle. No, not the Pinnacle. No.
Undisputed Paradigm. No, Undisputed Paragon. The
Paragon.
Yes.
Wow. So we had the whole Conglomeration like sitcom set on the stage with Roderick waking up Orange on the couch, and they had these guys mic'd. It was I can imagine this have been a little tough to have heard inside the arena. And then Kyle O'Reilly knocks at the door. Big response when he walks in and asks, "Did someone say Conglomeration?" And they all hug. That's followed by the Dogs, who come out. And this featured them destroying the set, Clark Connors dry humping his belt on the couch, and then Gabe Kidd pissing on the couch.
Yeah.
This sounds like a more entertaining sitcom than the Conglomeration version. These three guys as roommates.
Interesting. I do appreciate, like in the Conglomeration's case, that they're putting some effort into like trying to make this a more memorable, bigger theatrical entrance for them.
They did here. Yes. It was an attempt. Yes. So the focus of this match was Gabe Kidd. This is more like of a modern thing now where someone gets hurt and they just disappear. Like they're gone. There's no announcement. There's no reference by the broadcasters. They're just gone.
Commentators mentioned it. Yeah. But without any sort of definitive.
They mentioned Kidd is like holding his arm, and it looks like he basically has no movement in his arm. So going back to watch this, like, yes, they do this armbar spot on the floor, but if you go back like a minute or two before that, he comes into the ring, and Roderick just throws a chop, and Kidd takes a chop or takes a bump off this chop, and he immediately grabs his arm and rolls out to the floor. And from that point on, he's like favoring his arm. So if that was the spot, I'm thinking he just fell and dislocated his shoulder. And it was like a total fluke thing because he does continue and he does some spots afterwards. He took like a pescado and the armbar.
To me, it looked like if there was some sensitivity already to the arm, like he was still at least mobile enough to like participate.
Yes.
After the pescado, though, he was clearly in a lot.
At that point, he's up and he walks around the ring and like his arm is not moving at all. And they take him to the back and it's a 3-on-2 match for the last half of the match. So, I mean, I'm just purely guessing that he had like a separated shoulder off this, but I mean, we will probably find out shortly what the extent of it is.
Meltzer is, I guess, tweeted something about fearing that as well. Yeah.
So he's removed from the match. The crowd is singing for Kyle O'Reilly, and Connors goes for the spear to Cassidy through the ropes, and Shivani is comparing Clark Connors to Darby Allin. The crowd is getting a little tired here, but when Kyle got involved, they just got right back into it, and he gets an ankle lock onto Clark Connors. Orange Cassidy goes for this orange punch to Finlay and completely missed him. So Finlay is on top of he's on top of Kyle O'Reilly. Strong takes him out with a knee strike, and then Clark Connors just taps out in about 10 minutes. So we get new Trios Championships, which are, we're going with like the New Japan booking. These are just the hot potato belts, which I really don't have much of a problem with. Like, these belts are just for.
I mean, I do. I number one, I don't think you should have these championships at all. Like, they're disrespected. I don't think they mean a whole lot. I say that, but I think they actually meant something for the Dogs. Like, they're a new debuting group who, like, you know, kind of lost their first feud already to Darby Allin, and so they needed something to just show their success. So I kind of liked it on them. Now, of course, we have to like caveat this by saying like we don't know what changed as a result of like the injury to Kid, right? I imagine a lot of the match got cut, but the fact that they have this graphic ready for the Conglomeration being new Trios champions suggests to me that this was probably always going to be the booking decision, of course, because of, you know, Kyle O'Reilly coming back and being in Vancouver and everything. And I think it's a meaningless championship for these guys. You know, it's not like they have to fight hard to win this back.
In fairness, Wade, they'll probably lose these within 2 weeks.
I mean, again, further like weathering, I think any sort of value you might have to these championships.
Well, I think it's belts, and people equate belts with a push,
a moment. Like,
yeah,
that's
all they're doing with these. Whether it's like for Mystico to get a belt for a week, or for Kyle O'Reilly to get one in his return. These could be right back on the Dogs if Gabe Kidd is healthy in 2 weeks.
Sucks for Kid. Hopefully it's, you know, nothing.
Hopefully it's not serious, man, because man, he had like the injury last year around the G1, which really hurt momentum, and now hopefully it's not a similar case here where, you know, the Dogs, they've come in. It's not like they're right at the top, but they're in a very good spot at the moment.
In ring, they're looking fantastic. I mean, you know, Kid was also building up the thing with Suji as well, which might also be affected by all this. So
yes.
Yeah.
And then the main event is MJF and Kenny Omega, which gets started at 11:40 p.m. on the East Coast. Omega comes out, superstar entrance for Kenny Omega, and then MJF gets the big elaborate entrance. He elevates. He rented out the Cody Vader here as he elevated here on the stage in his devil outfit with a crown, spikes on his robe. This looked
It looked ridiculous, but for a pro wrestling one-off entrance, yes, you want ridiculous.
Look completely
sometimes.
normal in a wrestling setting. So the match begins early on. We get the tease of a one-winged angel from Kenny, his first of like a dozen of these attempts, and it's countered with a victory roll. MJF tries for the heat seeker, and then he has to go reset in the crowd and stalls. And we had a table get involved here as the referee is warning Kenny Omega, you've got to win it in the ring. It's like, yeah, what are you going to do about it? You're going to disqualify me after 5 minutes? So we just continued to use this table, and he was fine. Omega teases the Avalanche one-winged angel, which is, of course, the move you always tease because you're never going to hit it, right? It's like the German off the ring apron. You're never going to actually do it, right?
Yeah. Although people, like, I feel like the German off the apron is not as sort of like, I don't know, unusual anymore.
So it's avoided, and the two of them trade poison ranas. They really up the tempo here in like the middle of this point where this is going back and forth. Max hits a Panama Sunrise, and Max even tries the you can't escape, slipping, and then misses Kenny. Then Kenny sends Max to the floor, and he does the signal for the cross slash and hits a golden triangle as his tribute to Kota Ibushi here. But MJF goes after the weakened stomach of Kenny Omega, and he's asking, does your stomach hurt? And Danielson criticizes Kenny Omega not going for enough quality covers in the match. A good strong cover makes your opponent exert more energy. Kenny's not doing that. So I thought Danielson was great on this show with the neck stuff with Ospreay, and in this match too as well. Omega cannot lift Max for another one-winged angel because the midsection is compromised. But then MJF counters and hits a crossroads, and this crowd just boos this crossroads instantly, and he turns into a package pile driver. Omega survives. And then Omega just goes full-on kickboxer mode here with lighting up MJF with these strikes, and he's just like blasting this guy and kicking him in the corner. Great series of strikes, which he kind of introduced a bit when he had first come back. Like he was doing this in the Gabe Kidd match, but then kind of got away from it. But I like that he used this here. I thought it was a good sequence that he had. Multiple V triggers, and then Omega's knee goes to connect with Max, but Max pulls Bryce in between and takes out Bryce. And with that, Max is able to, I had already gotten ahead of myself, but we did get the spot where they are on the turnbuckle and Kenny hits the avalanche one-winged angel, but Max rolls to the floor to avoid this. Now, in watching this, Kenny took great care of this guy and landed it about as safely as you could possibly do, but it was still like a breathtaking move to see actually executed.
Has he actually not hit one of these in the past?
The avalanche one?
Yeah. Has he never actually done one?
I don't think he's hit it. Not that I recall. He's teased it many, many times. But anyway, Max survives that. And with Bryce out, Max goes into Bryce's pocket and removes the ring that he had handed over at the beginning of the match. And Kenny, meanwhile, hits another one-winged angel, but again, no referee. So Paul Turner runs out, and Max kicks out of the delayed cover after the one-winged angel that they make a big deal out of because no one in AEW has survived the one-winged angel. And Max has the ring, and he punches him in the body with the ring. The diverticular ring here, right to the guts of Kenny Omega. And he hits a tombstone off the apron through a table, heat seeker, and MJF wins in about 37 minutes. And he walks up the stage, sits on his throne, puts on his devil crown, and he just descends down the stage, proclaiming himself the devil as MJF retains in another pretty stellar main event. Your thoughts, Wai?
I mean, incredibly strong match, and the length is about, I think, what you kind of like would expect from a Kenny Omega MJF championship match. At the same time, maybe it's because the shows are long, but I don't think it dragged, but I also don't think it would have lost anything from a bit of editing. Not to maybe start, like my thoughts with a negative, because I thought the action was spectacular. I thought Kenny, delivered an incredible performance, and I don't even really know sort of like what the true state of him is these days, but he's still wrestling at this level despite all of that, which suggests to me that either he's working incredibly hard to come back to deliver these sort of performances, or maybe he is, fully healed and recovered and, better than he's ever been. I also felt like you could really buy into a Kenny win here more than even like before the show. And that to me is especially because Jericho lost, and also because
after Copeland and Cage lost, I thought there was like at least a decent shot of doing the title change here. Even though that was not my thought going in, that this was going to be Max retaining, but that was kind of contingent. I thought Copeland and Cage winning the tag titles here would have been like the big Canadian win on the show, and they gave you Kyle O'Reilly.
I will say I don't really understand why, after all they did on Wednesday to undo the diverticulitis story and the threat of Kenny Omega's stomach exploding. Not to say like that was probably too far. But then to have the doctor basically say, he's fine. He's 100% fine. We cleared him. He's totally cool. But then to go on to make diverticulitis in the stomach the focal point of this match, I don't really understand that. Also, in that same segment, you had Kenny physically take the diamond ring away from MJF, only to foolishly give it back to him by the end of the segment. And now in this match, it becomes the reason why he lost. So all of that, I don't know, is a little bit
the diamond ring
perplexing.
Was a very weird spot. Given Wednesday, they like the symbolism of Wednesday's closing segment, which was an excellent segment, seemed to be that you have stripped this guy of his go-to secret weapon. And
even if he did give it back, the insinuation is that Kenny knows he can use it, and maybe it's to say I could take this away from you at any time, or maybe it's to say I know you can use this. Will you not use it? Was it a challenge? I mean, I'm not sure.
It almost felt like there were some like competing ideas of like, what is the story that we are telling here? The first one being, okay, this is MJF when he beat him on Collision in 2023. He was beating a diminished Kenny Omega. And now this is Kenny at his best. And this is ultimately like, this is our champion that is like, he is the number one guy that is going to beat a Kenny Omega even at 100%. But I feel there was like this hesitancy because he's still our top villain and we just can't position him as like beating this guy clean. And it got really muddied in this whole diverticulitis story and the ring, because it almost felt as though they wanted to make this like, this is Max getting his win over Kenny without the excuse of him being like compromised as he was years ago. But it felt like they backtracked on that. So you can read it either way.
What did you think about the match itself?
I really enjoyed the match. It wasn't my match of the show. I would say it was a step below the Hangman match from a month ago. I just thought there was so much more in terms of that. For whatever you want to say, people buy that stipulation because they saw it used
Not
once.
to mention just that being a death match where, I mean, they had, needles and various objects to play with as well.
That too, but like I wasn't clamoring for that in this match either. It was still, I thought, a really solid match, but for me personally, I had Moxley and Ospreay as my match of the show, and I thought the Bucks tag match was number 2. This would probably come in at number 3.
I might go Bucks and Okada and Takeshita number 1.
I was very close between those two for like, I loved that tag match. I thought it was just excellent. So that being number 1 for people, I could completely see that. There might be some that thought the main event was like, it had like the big epic feel. And I think there was certainly the ability to buy into an Omega win in this match for a lot of reasons.
But top to bottom, again, so with the exception being maybe the Gabe Cade injury, I'm sure affecting, what that match was supposed to end with. I'm sure like that was probably going to be a much better match than it was. I felt like top to bottom, this was another really high quality AEW show,
Where do you see, if they do Max and Darby Wednesday, what do you see as the direction for Double or Nothing in the title picture?
Yeah. So again, I feel like Andrade is in the mix. Who else is in the mix? Swerve, we don't exactly know. I feel like he's being deliberately kept away for a reason. They are in Washington, right? So
this week,
he could come back this week.
Yeah. Yep.
Having lost the challenge, lost his number 1 contendership to MJF, maybe like that feels big enough for a Double or Nothing title challenge.
Swerve could be a possibility. Yeah, that's definitely something. I personally thought like Darby was big enough for Double or Nothing.
I did too. I did too.
Like they could do something on Wednesday that leads to a match, like a rematch. You could do something like that. But I just thought this was an excellent pay-per-view overall. Like very few things I think you can be negative on overall.
So Shelton says, I think Darby wins the belt. Do you think that's a possibility?
On Wednesday?
Title change on television.
I mean, that would give you a great reason to do a rematch at Double or Nothing. Certainly.
I would love that shock booking. I really would.
Sometimes you do stuff to just surprise, and I wouldn't completely dismiss it.
I would be open to it. Yeah, provided they have good follow-through.
Yeah. So we will see what happens on Wednesday. Very possible. We have a few pieces of feedback of people that were at the show. So let's just quickly go through some of those, and then we're going to wrap this one up. So let's go to Brett in Vancouver. And so he said he was just leaving the arena. Great house, really lively crowd all night. All the Canadians got great reactions. Pretty great wrestling top to bottom, as to be expected from AEW. Reasonably priced tickets as well, which is a welcome sight in an increasingly expensive world. If I had one complaint, it's the booking. I assume Tony has some long-term ideas, and I'm good with that. But in a vacuum, it was basically all heels winning tonight and Canadians losing. It felt like they threw us a bone with Kyle O'Reilly winning, but that was really just a buffer match. I would have liked to have seen Jericho win, at least if you didn't want to do any title changes. matches. Lastly, I didn't see exactly what happened to Gabe Kidd, but he was taken to the back by Doc Sampson and crew. Seemed to be clutching his shoulder. Hopefully he's all right. Yes. Hopefully it's not too serious with Gabe Kidd, but
maybe it's just because like I'm in Toronto and like they're in Vancouver, but like I don't mind. I don't think there should be a rule that says like everybody like who's from this place should be more likely to win. I think those days were well past. Like I personally don't think they're turning away any sort of repeat customer simply because the Canadians lost, in my opinion. But you know, we're also kind of used to our home teams losing in Canada.
Yeah, well, as well, it's it's like if you're from Canada, then you're the hometown favorite, no matter what city they are in.
Wolfman Handsome says, man, I didn't look at my watch once. I was in the building for this stacked show and I enjoyed every minute of it. The crowd energy was up for the most part during the show, other than the usual mid-show fatigue that I was feeling. I was pretty close to ringside and everything looks more savage up close. I give match of the show to the opening tag match. Okada was hilarious. I was pumped for O'Reilly's return, and the sitcom sketch made me laugh. We sure did love Jericho. Killer event, baby. Yeah. Also, of course, I wanted to give a shout out to the fan who held the post-wrestling sign all throughout the show. Right in the middle of the hard cam. Thank you so much, whoever you are, for
yeah, this guy was consistent throughout the show. I mean, that was he had great suits for this show. Matthew Johnson, also at Vancouver. Tonight was my first in-person AEW pay-per-view since All Out 2019. What a show it was. The opening tag between the Bucks and Okada Takeshita was the highlight for me. Amazing sequences as you'd expect, but the comedy elements made it. Okada donning the Young Bucks gear was chef's kiss moment. Kevin Hart winning, he wrote Kevin Hart here, but he means Kevin Knight, winning the Casino Gauntlet was an inspired decision. Here's hoping he can have a solid run with the belt. Kevin Hart would have been an awesome surprise. A Hart winning a belt in Canada, that would have been.
If this was a TKO-led edition of Dynasty, yes, you would have Kevin Hart winning the Casino Gauntlet. Yes, sure. All right, Zubin says, good evening, Wayne and John. I attended live tonight and was fortunate enough to sit second row from the ring on the hard cam side. Okay, so we had our identifier. Thank you very much, Zubin.
It's Zubin.
So I had Zubin, that's right. Thank you. So I had the opportunity to rep post wrestling. In addition to my Kiss sign inspired by my wife, I'm hoping the post sign made the broadcast. It surely did. Thank you, Zubin. Anyway, that aside, crowds had it hot all night, wondering how it came across. They very well. More than anything, I hope that Vancouver's old reputation for being a lame wrestling city can be put to bed, and we continue to have high quality, high stakes shows like tonight's come through. Thanks for the excellent coverage, and best of luck going to Mania Week. Your hard work is appreciated. Thank you very much, Zubin. Your hard work is appreciated. Yeah.
I thought the crowd was great tonight. I thought they were really lively and even like during the 0 hour, like you could tell it was a really excited crowd, and they really elevated a lot. I thought it was a very good crowd that they had. And the last one is Cody, who says, I just got back from the show. I can't praise AEW enough. The crowd was nuts for pretty much everything, and it felt like everything was over. I was there to see some great wrestling, and that's what I got. Between Dynamite, Collision, and Dynasty, I have no complaints. One thing I will say is that the shows move at such a furious pace and give you so much great wrestling that by mid-show, you do hit a lull. Unfortunately, that seemed to happen during the women's title match. Thekla has a mountain of charisma. Looking forward to hearing your review. Yeah, if I sensed a dip, it was during that match, but 5.5 hours, you are going to get a dip every now and then. But yeah, probably going to be some people's contender for show of the year. I would say it's going to be up there.
Apologies for some of the feedbackers we couldn't get to you. It is incredibly late, so we prioritize the people who attended live, including Brandon and Davey, who have been dropping like these sort of update, road trip podcasts all throughout the week on their Patreon. So I encourage everybody to check out the Boys Around Patreon and feed.
And we'll just make a mention to everyone. Our WrestleMania week coverage begins Monday at 1 p.m. Eastern time. We will be live and free on Monday, but then for every day after Monday, we are going to be live on the Post Wrestling Cafe daily at 1 p.m. Eastern time, going all the way through Saturday with daily shows. We'll be doing our regular Raw, Dynamite, SmackDown reviews, but also going live after WrestleMania Night 1 and Night 2. It is the best week of the year to sign up at postwrestlingcafe.com. New subscribers this month get 50% off their first month, and that will get you all of the WrestleMania week coverage. We are going to be hopefully joined by some guests. We've got a cool themed edition show coming up on Wednesday. We're going to be doing a big Mania preview, and then we'll be getting into show coverage toward the end of the week when all the shows begin on Thursday. So you'll be getting post-wrestling every day this week at 1 p.m. Eastern Time. We hope you join us for our WrestleMania week coverage, and of course online at postwrestling.com. So we are going to get a couple of hours of sleep. We'll be back Monday at 1 Eastern, and then Monday night after Raw. And by that point, Wai Ting just might be sick of my voice. So you're going to have to put up with a lot this week, Mr. Ting.
You know, maybe you'll have to adopt a new, you'll have to just start to speak to me in that Triple H impression.
Hey, final thing before we say goodbye. How was Lucas's first birthday?
It was wonderful. Thank you, John. Yeah, honestly, I'm so grateful he was born a few days before WrestleMania week, and this on a Saturday no less, without a pay-per-view. So thank goodness. Yeah, it was wonderful. My wife put a lot of work into, you know, just kind of making it special just for us and immediate family. So we had a great time. Thank you.
A happy birthday to Lucas as he loses his father for the next 7 days.
He'll be used to it, I'm sure. Yeah.
All right. Thanks everyone for joining us. We're back Monday, 1 p.m. Eastern Time. Goodbye.